They found her body cut cleanly in half at the waist, positioned on a vacant lot like an exhibit in a museum of horror. The record shows it was January 15, 1947, when a mother walking her young daughter through a Los Angeles neighborhood made the discovery that would define a city's darkest hour. What she saw, what she couldn't unsee, was the mutilated remains of a woman, posed deliberately, almost ceremonially. The body had been thoroughly cleaned. The killer had left no blood trail, no witnesses, no clear motive. And in the days and weeks that followed, Los Angeles would learn the victim's name, Elizabeth Short, but the city would remember her only as the Black Dahlia. Now, before we move forward, we need to rewind. Elizabeth Short wasn't famous before her death. She was 22 years old, unremarkable by most measures, a young woman trying to make it in 1940s Hollywood. The record describes her as attractive, dark-haired, ambitious. She'd moved to Los Angeles from Massachusetts, like thousands of other women, chasing a screen test or a small role that might change her life. She worked odd jobs, posed for photographs, went to bars and nightclubs. She lived in a series of boarding houses and temporary rooms, moving from one address to another. The record shows she was last seen alive on January 9, 1947, at the Biltmore Hotel. She was wearing a black dress, the detail that would later inspire her nickname. After that date, she vanished. 6 days later, that mother and child found her. The body was severed at the waist with surgical precision. There were lacerations across her face and torso. Her fingertips had been removed. The record only says the killer had invested significant time and expertise in the disposal. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was calculated, deliberate, the work of someone who knew what they were doing. The Los Angeles Police Department received over 150 confessions within the first month. Men walked into precinct stations claiming they'd killed Elizabeth Short. Some were mentally ill. Some were attention seekers. Some confessed to crimes they couldn't possibly have committed, yet their stories were detailed enough to demand investigation. The record shows detectives pursued every lead with the intensity the case demanded, but none of them held. The newspapers seized on the story with a hunger that was almost primal. The Black Dahlia became the most sensational case in American crime history. Reporters hounded suspects. Photographers staked out the LAPD headquarters. The victim's face appeared on front pages across the country. What had been a murder investigation became a media circus, and the noise made it nearly impossible to hear the truth beneath it. The record identifies several prime suspects. There was the surgeon, a man with medical knowledge who fit the profile. There was the woman who claimed to have seen Elizabeth with a man the night she disappeared. There were lovers, acquaintances, people on the periphery of her life, each with fragments of a story that seemed to point toward guilt. But fragments aren't evidence, and none of them could be definitively connected to the crime. One theory that persists in the record involves a jealous lover or a rejected suitor. Another suggests a connection to organized crime or a sadistic killer who worked alone. The file contains handwriting analysis, timeline reconstructions, and psychological profiles, all tools available to investigators in 1947. Yet the case remained stubbornly unsolved. The investigation consumed resources and careers. Detective after detective took the case, chased leads, hit dead ends, and eventually moved on to crimes that could be solved. The record shows that by the 1950s, the case had cooled. Elizabeth Short's killer, if he was ever identified, took the secret to the grave. Decades passed. The file remained open, but the work of active investigation ceased. The Black Dahlia case became a cultural artifact, a symbol of Hollywood's shadow side, of the violence that lurked beneath glamour and ambition. Books were written, documentaries were made, true crime enthusiasts theorized and debated. But the fundamental question remained unanswered: who killed Elizabeth Short and why? In 2003, the LAPD officially closed the case. The record states that the department had exhausted all investigative avenues. No charges would be filed. No arrest would be made. The killer, if still living, would likely never face justice. And Elizabeth Short would remain in the public imagination, a victim forever suspended in the moment of her death, her case a monument to the limits of criminal investigation. Yet the file was never truly closed in the minds of those who studied it. Armchair detectives continue to parse the evidence. New theories emerge. DNA technology that didn't exist in 1947 might one day unlock answers, but only if evidence has been preserved. The record shows that time, in the case of the Black Dahlia, became both an investigator's enemy and an unexpected ally. What we know with certainty is this: Elizabeth Short was murdered by someone. The record shows she suffered. She was treated with deliberate cruelty. and 75 years later that person's identity remains unknown. The case sits in archives, a permanent fixture in the catalog of American true crime, a reminder that some questions, no matter how urgently asked, may never receive answers. Subscribe each week. We investigate another unsolved case that the system couldn't close.